It's kind of crazy, man. I have to tell everybody that's tuning in. So, you guys,
But now it looks like it's going.
yeah, right. You guys that read the magazine all the time, you know that at the beginning of the year, Heather and I packed up our office into a mobile command center. We've been going around the country and making the issue of the magazine. So this is the first installment of the weekly report that the studio is also in the mobile command center, and we had to figure out how to get this stuff fixed and working and running mobily on the road. Goodly.
Yeah.
Bigly.
Dude, I know how, nobody sees the behind the scenes with you,
dude.
but you are a magician.
No.
Because, well, you and I have been talking about doing this for years, right? We've been talking about doing it, and I'm just like, yeah, I'm not putting in the footwork, and you just dove in. Nobody knows this, but your computer completely just got destroyed on the way down there, right?
Yeah, and that's one of the challenges, man, is we got out of the gas stop, you check the load, you check everything, and there's my iMac that we'd use for this broadcast smashed on the floor of the trailer, and I'm like, that's awesome.
All right.
Because basically as soon as we park, we have to start setting up so that we can do this broadcast today. But
yeah,
that's enough of my
no, but I mean, I don't think people I think people think we just go and it's done.
Right.
And it's so much preparation and work on your behalf, especially.
Very much not like that.
My hat, if I had a hat, I'd take my hat off to you.
So let's get into some news. Let's start talking about what's going on in the world of motorcycling this week.
What do you want to talk about first?
I think maybe since it's an issue that's near and dear to my heart, we could start off with the Sturgis Hall of Fame.
Yeah, Sturgis Motorcycle Museum and Hall of Fame. Really cool expansion project they're talking about. It looks like they're going to have 2 campuses, and within the next 3 years they're going to double the size. So looks like they're going to have the Hall of Fame on one side, and then they're going to have the museum somewhere else. It looks like it's going to be off exit 32, I think it is. Yeah, exit 32. And all made possible by Law Tigers. They gave $100,000, more than $100,000. So Ari and those guys,
awesome.
My hats are off to those guys, and supporting that. I mean, the museum, I feel like, has always been such a big part of the Sturgis Rally, at least as long as I've been going there. I've been to the breakfast several times, got to see people that I probably would have never seen anywhere else. And then the museum just in itself is just a gem. Walking in there, I think so many people don't take the time to just take those 5 steps off of Main Street and go into the Hall of Fame, but it's really worth it.
Well, and one thing that I'd really like to see in this, because I get super excited about it. I mean, every year, every single person that gets inducted, it's another page in our history, and everyone's really fired up about it that knows, that's in the know. But I would like to see, even though this started and starts and ends with Sturgis and the Sturgis Rally, it's really, when you compare this to like the AMA Hall of Fame and Museum, which I love the AMA's Hall of Fame too, but this for people like on the quote unquote biker side of things, custom motorcycle world, this is really our Hall of Fame museum. I would love to see Sturgis open this up someday to be like that real all-inclusive worldwide Hall of Fame and museum for this part of the motorcycle culture. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And really run neck and neck and head to head with the AMA's deal, except for the other side of the coin.
Yeah. No, I agree. No, I think that would be cool, and I think it is, Chris. I think that's a lot of what it is right now. It might not be named that, but I feel like
whether it's named that or not, though, the truth is in the fact that to get into that Hall of Fame, you have to have made a contribution to the Sturgis Motorcycle Rally. That's the delimiting factor. You know what I mean? And
sure.
I'm not saying there's
there
anything
has to be
bad
a connection
with that.
to Sturgis for sure. Yeah. So somebody that's never been to Sturgis or hasn't, been an active participant, and that makes sense, I guess. But I see what you're saying. You want it to be more of a global.
Well, and only because I feel like there's a real need for that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I feel like there's an opening that they're well on their way of occupying that spot. You know, the more of our history, the more of our pages are contained in that building, in that program. You know, I think they really have the ability to take that next step if they'd ever want to. You know, maybe that's a great interview, is to get somebody from their
Oh
board
yeah,
on here.
we could get Myrick for sure. I think that's definitely a possibility. So one of the other things we probably need to mention is, you know, the land was actually donated by Scott Peterson of Scott Peterson Ford, and that's a big deal.
Yeah,
you know, that
absolutely.
real estate right off I-90 is not cheap, and so for him to do that, and one of the board members actually took money out of his own pocket so they could get the architectural design firm to kind of do the sketches and that was Bruce ID, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And so that, you know, those people that go there and support it and, you know, kind of put their money where their mouth is, that's a big deal, you know, so they need to be recognized for sure.
So I have a stupid piece of news to talk about for a minute.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
Have
I
you
love
seen
stupid news.
Have you seen this video with everybody's up in arms about this right now? This caught on camera, cop draws down on biker, right? And I'm gonna play the video real quick. Of course, it's gonna play after about 10 minutes worth of bullshit ad, but let me give you the premise of this. So some stunt riders are riding through town.
Mm-hmm.
Policeman pulls up next to them and actually pulls a pistol on them out the window. Here it comes.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe. Yeah, like I said, life on the road right now.
Maybe. Oh, look at that. We're now just a big fuzzy screen.
There we go. We back?
I don't know. I'm looking at my phone. I'm not sure if I'm seeing anything. Oh, there we go.
There we go. Okay, so back to this. So, in lieu of playing the video, I guess, because something's happening here, this policeman pulls up next to this guy, New Mexico, and you know, he's riding a stunt down the street up on one wheel. The cop pulls up next to him. He's not paying attention to the cop. The cop pulls a pistol out the window, and now motorcycle rights people, news agencies, everyone's up in arms. Oh my God, this was excessive. I can't wait to see the whole line of Biker Lives Matter t-shirts coming out any day now. And I just want to, like, listen, I want to call bullshit on the whole thing. First of all, stunting in the street is illegal. That's it, period. You know what I mean? If you're going to do that, which it's not like I don't support illegal activity, you know, it happens.
Not that you do support it, but you don't not support it.
But listen, like, in my time, have I street raced? Yes, I have. I understand what the penalties for street racing are. If the cops show up, someone's going to jail. That's the penalty. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But what was it? Was it excessive for the cop to pull a gun out the window? Probably.
Probably.
You know, but
yeah.
I can remember when I was a kid, man. Like, if you didn't listen to the cops around my neighborhood, you got your ass kicked. Period. You know what I mean? They didn't call.
Bit of a different time.
But whether it was a different time or not, you know what I mean? We're losing track of ourselves here. We're losing track of what is a right and what is a responsibility anymore. You know what I mean? Yes, you have rights. They come with responsibilities. They come 100%. With a responsibility that if you don't want your ass kicked, you don't act like a dick. And that's pretty much been a universal understanding. You know what I mean? Yeah. We've lost track of that somehow, Ken.
It's a shirt there, Chris.
Right?
You don't want your ass kicked, don't act like a dick.
Don't be a dick.
Write that down.
But, you know, to these kids that are stunting out here, I feel bad for the cop because he's obviously lost his shit and he's in all kind of trouble now.
Oh, I'm sure.
But I feel bad for him because you think about this cop, he probably sees these kids 10 times a week. They're giving them the finger as they go by them because you're never catching one of those bikes at a cop car. You know what I mean? Yeah. Oh, so somebody catches it on camera. Now it's everywhere, and my sympathies go out.
And that's like one of the hardest jobs out there.
Right,
you know,
it is.
Being a cop is like, I mean, that is so hard. So that's I don't know. That's a whole nother thing. Figuring out the right and wrong, like.
But
I mean, I remember being a kid and us, you know, doing some nefarious things and actually getting, one of the kids that I was with, I think was like a judge's son or something. So we got, shuttled home, and those are the kind of things that cops have to make a judgment about every day. Like,
Right.
okay, what do I do? Like, what's the right thing to do here? And then what's the smart thing to do here? And I don't think you and I
absolutely.
could ever pretend to even remotely understand how stressful that is.
And it still comes down to the same thing. If you don't want your ass kicked, don't act like a dick.
Exactly.
You know?
Hey, let's get we got like 1 minute before, actually right now, let's get Paul on the phone.
Okay.
Just so we don't lose our window of opportunity with him. I think he's got about 15 minutes, so I want to make sure that we get him on. While you do that, maybe we can pull up the Goldwing.
Yeah, I can actually.
So they just announced the new 2018 Goldwing. Looks a lot the same, but the big deal is it as long as you connect it via USB, an iPhone, you've got basically a touch panel on the screen, and you can have CarPlay like you'd have in a Tesla, basically. And so that's this cool touchscreen that looks like your iPhone. You've got to have a Bluetooth headset. That's mandated by this. But I mean, that is where, that's where motorcycle technology is going.
Yeah,
and that's a big deal. The bike is the bike, whatever.
I go back and forth over, like, this month. It's funny that you bring this up today, because this month I did my editorial. I did a thing with how much technology is too much. Like we get to a point where sometimes you enjoy the solitude of just being on the motorcycle, being away from everything. And and this comes from a person that I love music on the road. I love connectability, communication, but every once in a while I think that we lose a little bit with the addition of layers and layers of technology.
I agree. I mean, you look at, I don't want to get into it. It opens up, that's like a whole nother hour, Chris.
Right.
Talking about kids today and what they're, doing with screens and all that stuff. I mean, that's like a whole nother, anyway.
Well, let's see if we can dial Mr. Yaffe up here and have a communication with the man about Bikers for Boobies.
All right.
Hey guys.
Hey Paul, how you doing? It's Chris and Ken with the Weekly Report. You're live.
Hi Chris, how are you?
Good, buddy. How you doing?
What's up, man?
What's going on?
Nothing. You just got back from a whirlwind, headed down to Biketoberfest, did the Baddest Bagger show, and then came back the next day to do the Bikers for Boobies giveaway, which CycleSource has been very involved with. What was that like?
Very 14 hours of flying and airports and a lot of red eye stuff, and I think my back is still recovering. So
yeah. How was the Baddest Bagger show?
Baddest Bagger show was better than I even imagined. It was very well attended. The weather was absolutely perfect. The new venue is kick-ass.
Where is it?
Huge there, and the bikes look great. And the crowds were out, and it was just beautiful. It was perfect.
What is the new venue?
You guys relocated to the Speedway?
Yes, our new location is at the Daytona International Speedway, right at the Chevy Injector. It's right next door to the Solar Pavilion, which is where all the food vendors and the bars and Harley Davidson's right there, and Hot Leathers is right there. It's all just great location.
Right on.
Nice.
So
go ahead, Chris.
Well, I wanted to bring a segue real quick to talk about the Bikers for Boobies motorcycle. We were involved in a great promotion with Paul all year long with a motorcycle that was built for a great charity out in Arizona, and man, the bike came out incredible. It was just a fantastic build, Paul. I can't even tell you.
Well, thank you very much. I'm flattered, and thank you. I'm glad you liked it. We kind of went off in a new direction there, and you never know quite where you're going to land when you do that. So.
Yeah, can you tell, some of the listeners, watchers, what you started with and then what you ended up with?
Yeah, well, the Bikers for Boobies cancer charity procured a new 2000 2016 Road King for us. Just a bone stock new bike from Harley Davidson, and they gave it to us, and we went off on a direction that we like to call a sport touring bike. To put some imagination to it, it's kind of like a oversized Dyna, or a kind of a or Dyna or FXR. It kind of took on a look of both of them. So I can get into the build a little bit. You know, we wanted to take a bunch of weight off of it, so we turned to the people at Brock's Performance and got a set of carbon fiber wheels and an aluminum swing arm, which were some of the very heavy parts on the stock bike, which worked great. We took the engine out and we sent it to Vance and Hines to their race shop in Indiana, and they gave the motor of their full race treatment, 106-inch, welded up the head, CNC ported them, their race cams, push rods, their entire valve train, welded the crank, balanced it, just did everything, and sent us back 120 horsepower, 120 foot-pounds of torque, twin cam motor dropped in it, with a horsepower Inc. provided a 58 millimeter throttle body for it to get some more air in that huge beast. And Nick Trask put one of his really cool looking air cleaners with it, and Nick Trask also ended up making us a 2-into-1 performance collector for the bike. The sheet metal, we bobbed the rear fender, Frenched in a license plate, some of our little super bright LEDs in the rear fender for taillights. Christine LaPera made us a really cool Daytona sports seat. Torch Industries is a local fabrication shop here. They took the stock gas tank and made knee indents in the gas tank. We put some fork legs. I took a set of fork legs off of a Dyna and put them on the 41 millimeter fork legs. Machined them all down to make them look kind of like what you'd see like on a track bike. So lightened them up and made them look like they were machined from billet. Jesse from Legends USA gave us one of his Axio front nitrogen cartridge front ends for the bike, and a set of his Revo rear shocks for the bike, which just totally tricked out the suspension and made the bike ride like a Cadillac. We put I did some fab for it. I made a stretched out set of side covers. Leather Pros gave us a set of their ballistic bags for it, which give the bike a real cool, aggressive sport look. We grafted some mid controls off a Dyna.
And then some lucky winner got to go won that bike last weekend, right?
Yeah, actually, a gal won it, and she was actually a local gal and a cancer survivor.
No kidding.
Oh, no way.
Yeah,
That's
when they
awesome.
drew the ticket out, when the flaunt girls actually went in the basket and drew the ticket out.
Uh-huh.
So tell everybody a little bit more about this. So the name of the charity is Bikers For Boobies. Obviously, it's a motorcycle charity organization that's aim is to raise money for breast cancer and breast cancer research. But where do you come in on this, Paul?
As far as our involvement with it,
Yeah.
well, the people that host the event and the Bikers For Boobies Foundation are friends of mine, Kelly Martin, Missy Hughes, and Jack Estes from the Dirty Dog Saloon. They've been putting on this event for a decade, and they came to me about 5 years ago trying to raise the event, trying to kind of take the event to the next level. And they asked me to build them bikes to wrap them up. So I did. I did a bagger for them, and it was real successful. And they sold a bunch of tickets, and that was all good. And so then, for the past several years, they've contacted a few other builders and had some other people build them bikes and to spread the wealth around. And then they came back to me for the 10th anniversary and asked me if I would do this.
So 10 years of this. That's amazing. That's amazing. And like how great are you guys too to give so much of yourself, your time, and everything to to support something like this, because it's, you know, I've met the people that are behind the Bikers for Boobies, and it's absolutely a passion for them.
Yep.
So,
What's the what's your what are you doing moving forward? I know you're working on your SRT kits. Those are out. Is that correct?
That's correct. We're just filling in a few little details. We're finishing up the couple little details on the 13 and earlier kits. The 14 and later kits are done.
Okay.
And just a little fill-in things. I just finished a little caliper adapter if you want to put on a 15-inch rotor on your bike, little stuff like that. But yeah, they're out, and that's been our big push. A lot of kind of sport touring parts. Some of our new body parts are done. All of our new stealth shifter line is just about done. So, just lots and lots of new stuff getting ready for 2018. So.
Now that's something that I want to talk about for a minute, because from the beginning of the Biker Boobies bike design, and you know, what I saw early at the beginning of last year with your SRT and stuff, there's a lot of interest really in the touring motorcycles now, moving more towards performance oriented design and a lot more functionality and function based design into it. And this whole thing that you're calling sport touring, it's really catching on like crazy everywhere.
Well, that's good to hear, because I'm so stuck in my little tunnel that I have no idea what's going on outside. Sunlight very often, so it's nice to know that they haven't left me behind, and you know, Triumph choppers are making a big resurgence or something. So, yeah, but yeah, we actually really love to ride, and we love when we do get out on the bike and we get to take a trip. It's usually cross country, and you know, we like to shred some canyons. We like to have a good time, and you know, you want a bike that you can push and that can do everything you ask it to do. And you know, the 23-inch wheel bike or a 26-inch wheel bike is a pretty good partner in that. You know, if you got some riding experience, but you know, with all this 30, 32, 34-inch stuff, it's gotten beyond where it's fun anymore. You know, it's all about kind of showing off. And as much as I like to, my bike get attention, it's really more about, I get far more enjoyment from the ride than I do from the so.
Yeah, right on.
Yeah, I mean, I'll make. Well, he probably won't blush, but I was riding with Paul last year in Colorado, and you were riding Celtic King bike, which is a 26-inch front. Is that a 23 or 26-inch front wheel bike?
26-inch.
Yeah. Yep. So it's 26, and he was beyond far in front of me, like just going down Boulder Canyon at terrifying speeds. So a lot of it has to do with the rider, but I agree 100%. I rode that SRT in Daytona last year. And I dare say that it rides better than a stock road glide. Yeah, so it's a pleasure to ride. And then you ended up riding that bike all the way to Sturgis, right?
Yes, I did.
Yep. So, I mean, that bike, you know, it's been proven, you know, it's not just one of these, you know, that platform has been proven. It's not just one of these like harebrained ideas like, hey, you know, let's try this. It's one of those things that you obviously thought out really well and tested. And I think that, you know, the demand in the market is really proving that it's something that people really want.
Well, you know, I got to see this bike up close and in person in Daytona too, Ken, while you had it out there, and like immediately it doesn't look like a glamour shot. You know what I mean? It's a big burly motorcycle. It looks like it's, you know, the usability factor is there. And I think that's, you know, whether it's touring motorcycles or anything right now, like, you know, look at the In Motion show, and there's a lot of sentiment coming along about it. If you can't actually use it, it doesn't matter what direction, what design. If you can't use it, if you can't ride it, it's no fun, you know?
Yeah, what's the point? Yeah, I totally agree with that. And so you know, I've been working on this sport touring platform for 5 years. So it's taken that long to bring it to where we could actually offer it as kits to other people. So.
Yeah, well, I think a lot of people don't realize you actually had your own tire made. You had a 20-inch tire made, right?
Yeah, my tire, Yeah, we had our own tire, our own suspension, our own wheel made. None of this stuff existed before we finalized the direction we wanted to head. So.
Yeah, it just proves once again you're one of the guys that's always looking forward and coming up with ideas. Kind of propels this industry, and that's what it needs right now. Chris and I have talked a little bit about the fact that the industry needs a little bit of a shot in the arm, things that are interesting and that people can do easily to their bikes, and that SRT.
Yeah, we make every question or part you may need, we make, so it's all available.
Mm-hmm. Great. Well, thanks for your time, Paul, and thanks for being patient with us. I know that we had a little bit of a hiccup there, but we really appreciate you taking the time. That Bikers for Boobies bike is going to be featured in an issue soon, right, Chris?
Yeah, absolutely. And that was, Paul, while you were talking, we were showing video of the bike. You guys had done a walk around video and stuff, and we were showing people that, and I'm really excited to have that in the magazine, and great to be part of that whole charity, and thanks for reaching out to us on that.
Oh, we totally appreciate the coverage and attention, and we're happy that everybody's happy to be involved with it, that nobody's trying to run away. So
right on.
All right.
Yes, sir. Well,
thanks, Paul. We'll talk soon.
All right, guys. Have a great day, man.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.
Man, it's never it's never a bad day when you get to hang out with him, and his wife Susie just makes it better.
Yep.
two of the best people that I know, but what a blast too. Like, she is an absolute cut up. Like,
yes,
dude, she came to Sturgis. We were in Grease and Gears Garage in Sturgis at the Iron Horse, not this year, but the year before, when Paul came up to do a segment. And when she first came there, Lenny, none of us knew her really well. So Mark and I were off to the side, and we were like, she's kind of fancy looking. She's, she carries herself well.
She likes her boots. Yeah.
And we're thinking, oh boy, because she's going to hang out on the side the whole time. Dude, we had so much fun talking to her.
Oh, yeah.
It was
she's
so
great.
much fun. We were busting.
She knows where all the bodies are buried.
Yeah,
too.
yeah.
Yeah, she's great. Susie's great. Yeah, they're an awesome duo for sure. And yeah. Anyway, I'm not gonna kiss anybody's ass anymore, but that was definitely a good segment. We'll get him on for a more extensive interview. Right. His trip to how he became a bike builder and everything that goes along with that. We covered that a little bit in the article that I did probably last year about his 25th anniversary. So if you don't have that back issue, definitely go pick it up. But we'll get him on the show sometime and do a real extensive interview. I think that'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah, he does. He has a great story, man. I mean, on all fronts, he really does.
Yeah, for sure. Hey, let's get Billy on the phone. Talk to him about Sons of Speed. He's got a big announcement that he wants to make, so let's make sure he gets a chance to do that.
Hello.
Mr. Billy Lane, how you doing, buddy?
Hey, what's up, Chris?
So
Hey, man. How are you?
You're on the air with Chris and Ken in the weekly report, and we're looking for the scoop. We're looking for the inside track on what can you tell us about Sons of Speed?
Man, you missed it.
I know.
You missed it. It was great. This is the third one. We started in March of this year. It was pretty good, but we had some bumps to iron out, and then we took it to Sturgis, and that was a little different because we were on dirt, and basically in the middle of nowhere. But we came back here, and we really did it this time. You guys, I wish you could have been here to see it. I mean, the races were just fantastic. The crowd loved it.
Man.
The racers loved it. It was just hard to beat.
When I was watching coming into the races, I was watching social media and some of the different guys that were working on stuff, and I had even made a comment last week. We were talking about on the show, and I talked about Matt Woxler and the sound of that machine that he was working on. If I could have made it to this year's race just to see that bike run, would have been insane, because it sounded like a fierce motor.
You know, it's hard to believe how crazy these things sound. I mean, you look at them and you see them in, you know, all it was for a long time was you saw them in books and magazines, and you never saw one move or heard it go. And
Right.
And now we're taking it to a whole other level, Chris. I mean, like Matt has, you know, he has basically the replica Ricardo heads. Harry Ricardo was one of the guys that helped develop overhead valve technology and performance components for, you know, in the early 1900s,
Wow.
man. And so those bikes make the sound, and they're so different than like a shovel head or a panhead or a knucklehead, because there's no mass to the cylinders. So the explosion that goes on inside the cylinder, you damn near hear it as loud outside the cylinder as you do inside the cylinder, because there's nothing there to absorb the sound. It's ridiculous.
Cool.
Yeah, it was furious. So, what was the big race? So the Daytona race was, I mean, that was just off the hook, man. The stands were packed. There was some real serious people on the track, and the race that Brittany won for the end, like that was it for me. That was a serious race. She spent 4 laps setting up that last pass, and like, what was the race? What was the race from Biketoberfest that you can tell us about? Who was in it?
I mean, it was the semifinal and final heat. You know, the semifinal heat, or rather the quarterfinal heat, there was between the best race of that one was between eBay Jake, who ultimately won, and Matt Wassler. And Matt Wassler was on, I mean, his machine was just so fast. You could see it in the straightaways, how fast he would pull away from everybody, but it couldn't really do it in the curves.
Really?
And that's where eBay Jake got him. But, I mean, that semifinal heat, those two guys finished, literally, we have a photo finish. It's on Instagram. Axle to axle lined up perfectly coming across that start-finish line. I mean, it was, that's how, and I think they had like six or eight lead changes between over 6 laps. And, you know, then photo finish. You know, you can go on Matt Walsh's Instagram at Matt.Modified, or we're going to post it on ours too, but they were literally axle to axle coming across the start-finish line. That's how close that heat was.
Yeah.
Yeah, Buzz had posted a video of that whole race. He took it down, but it was up on YouTube, and I watched that. It was awesome.
You know, Ken, I'll tell you right now, those videos do not capture the speed.
For sure.
You know,
I know,
really
it's
don't.
crazy.
They really don't.
I watched them too. You know, Friday during practice, maybe it was Thursday, I was standing up at the top of turn 4, and I was just watching, and it was Matt Harris, Josh Owens, and Matt Wassler. And I was watching these guys go, and I was like, holy crap, man, that they were not going this fast in March. And I'm like, somebody's going to get hurt. They're going so fast. They were going well into the 80s, which is fast on one of those bikes on any track.
Yeah, buddy.
And it was just so impressive.
Yeah, I mean, being there, and I think that's the thing that I really want to stress to people is in March, you know, I know we don't have a date nailed down yet, but in March, if, you know, once we get a date, people need to start planning their Daytona trip around it, because that is not to be missed. Like I said last year, it was definitely the highlight of my trip to Daytona. I think we've all done Daytona a million times, been to a ton of rallies. And it's very rare that I go to a rally and I'm inspired, you know, and I'm like, this is something, you know, that gives me goosebumps, you know, or that I'm proud to be a part of. And Sons of Speed is one of those things. I can't say enough about it. People need to plan their Daytona trip around that and make sure that they get out to New Smyrna Speedway, and just, you know, stay in touch with you over social media. Look at your feed. I'm sure as soon as, you know, you get it ironed out, we'll have dates up, but they need to see that, because it is so impressive.
Oh, and you know,
I mean, you know,
even the Sturgis thing, man. If I could just second, even in Sturgis, because I know, like you said, Sturgis was a different track, and it wasn't probably ideal conditions when you compare it to the Daytona race. But as far as inspiration, and as far as the traditions and the history of motorcycle racing, I think that was super, super important that you guys did that on that track, because that was indicative of what it was like to race a motorcycle in those days. I mean, people showed up.
Yeah.
They made an area and said that's where the track is going to be. This is where you're going to race, and guys went and raced. You know what I mean? It was, and I think that was very reflective of that. It was awesome. It was awesome that you guys pulled that off in Sturgis.
You know, Sturgis, this summer we'll get that track right, and when we get that track right, it's going to be just as impressive as the Daytona races, maybe even better because the track's going to be smaller and steeper. But you're right. And I mean, being out in that environment, every time we would be doing something, I would just look up and look off in the distance and just see how gorgeous it was out there. And I was happy to be there no matter what.
Right.
But,
Sure.
I mean, and plus now, you know, after having 3 events under our belt, we're just getting better at tuning the bikes. But, you know, I was out there, I think it was Friday during practice, and I was on Josh Owen's bike, which was one of the fastest bikes out there. And I did about 15 laps to Matt Walksler. No, you know what? It was Thursday, and he still had the knobby tires on his bike for Sturgis. And I just couldn't hang on the bike because the knobby tires wouldn't hold on that track. But we were running, and I mean, I know I was running Matt as hard as I could because he was pumping oil out of his motor. It was all over me. And, you know, that's how hard I was running him. And he knew I was right on his butt. And we get in the straightaways, and he'd pull away. But I would catch him in the curves, and I was actually really gaining on him in the curves. And if later we ended up changing the tires, which is what made Josh do so well. But, I mean, the feeling, the rush, you know, and I know when I was out on the track, every time I come around, I could see everybody in the infield was there for practice watching us run because they were like, man, look how fast these guys are going on these old bikes with little bitty tires. You know, it's so exciting. You think around bike, we go a bike show or, you know, drink beer at a bar or whatever, but come out and see this because everybody that's racing put a lot of heart and soul and energy into making these old machines run, and they won't let you down.
Yeah, 100%. Yep.
Well, and you know,
anything else. The
important thing about that too, like we're sort of lucky because we've had a man on the inside almost from the beginning of this, you know, giving us the access to the metaphysical side of it. You know, the dedication starts and ends with this thing in the garage. The stuff that happens in Billy's shop, you know, for weeks these guys are getting these things ready, and like a lot of them, people don't even realize, a lot of them are at the shop sleeping on sleeping bags around the clock, you know, helping each other with these motorcycles to make this happen. This is such a special and unique effort, and so much energy is going into it, man. It's just such an amazing thing. It's way beyond, hey, you know, they're running old bikes. It's not even, you can't even put it out like that.
Agreed.
Yeah, you know, and one of the things, it's just, I love it. And we, you know, and all of us are learning together on these things. There's no textbook. There's nowhere on Google that you can go that says this is how you make, you know, a board track bike run and race. I mean, there's just nothing, there's no information. So me and Matt were talking about it. We're creating that right now, you know, like 10, 15, 20 years from now when there's some kind of compiled piece of information where somebody can go and say, okay, this is how you do this. We're the guys that are writing that now. And it feels great to be a part of it. You know, I mean, it really does. You know, because as soon as in the teens and 20s, as soon as they got this together, it became obsolete and it vanished. So no one ever did it. So now that we're bringing it back, you know, this is here to stay. And so it feels good to be a part of that. And I mean, being in the shop with all the guys that come by here and we all work together and help each other, it's just a great experience. And it's really the reason I got into motorcycles in the first place.
Right on.
Yeah, it's cool. We heard that you might have an announcement to make about Daytona.
Yeah, I do, Ken. So we're going to add, besides the 1,000cc board track class, we're going to add a 45 cubic inch class to race prior to those on the same day. And I'm real excited about it because I think, you know, the board track bikes are pricey, and the 45s are about a third to a half the price of the board track bike. So I think it opens it up to a whole new element of guys. And
dude,
it's
that's
so
gonna
different.
open
Matt
it.
Walsh will tell any of you. He said, man, this is so different than racing on dirt. This is so much faster. It's so much more exciting. And so I think it'll be the same for the 45s. Instead of flat tracking them, we'll get out there and ride them on these bank turns, and you can I think they'll be faster than the board track bikes.
That's going to open it way up. That's going to open it way up. 45s, man.
Yeah.
And it'll make a whole day out of it. And not that hasn't been a day. You know, I know they had the Old Speed show there. Buzz put on that old speed show, you can make it into a real kind of festival that day when you've got that much racing going on.
Yeah, so we're gonna set up something where people can contact me. We can send out racer packets and get people signed up. But I'm gonna be going out all winter. I have a 37 Harley WL 45 cubic inch bike I'm gonna race, and I'm gonna be out all winter and getting it set up for the track, so I can kind of give people an idea of the sprocket ratios and gearing and everything they're gonna want to really succeed on this track. Because that's why like two of my bikes. Really well on that track against Matt's bikes, and even though Matt was out powering us, I've got so much experience out there now that I have kind of an advantage everybody else as far as setting a bike up. So, but I want to share that because I want the racing to be close and great.
Right.
So
that's
you can go out there with an overpowered bike, but if you don't have it set up right, it's you're going to be at a disadvantage because this isn't dirt track racing. It's so different.
Yeah, it's way more fun to watch a race that's close or a game that's close, like that World Series game last night, than it is to watch just a blowout for sure. So
that what game?
That World Series game last night was epic. Anyway.
So
yeah, so I'm excited to make that announcement about the 45s.
Oh, dude, I love it. I love it.
The Hart family that owns the track, and they're so excited to have us back. They love it, and because normally it's just they race NASCAR cars on that track. So we're bringing a whole new trip, not only to Daytona Bike Week, but to New Smyrna Speedway, and to the people who've been coming to Bike Week for so many years that everybody's something else to do, which I think is a good thing.
Absolutely. This and the 45s is going to change a lot. I mean, a lot of guys. That's going to include a lot of people in this, man. That's fantastic.
I already see your gears turning, Chris.
Oh, yeah.
I already see you going through your head. Hey, does Tim have a 45?
Hey,
who do I know that
All I'm going to say is this. Roadside Marty, get some stuff together. I'm on my way to Florida.
Yeah, I am. I got a bottom end here. I'll throw that in the mix if you need a bottom end. I don't have the rest of it, but I have an extra bottom end laying around.
No, absolutely. And listen, anything that throughout this whole thing, if there's anything we can do with the magazine, if there's anything we can do with any of our other media outlets, to further that message and to help you keep this thing going, because I do agree. I think this is one of the channels that's pumping life's blood back into these events, and it's pure and it's great, and I commend you for that. So anything we can do to help, please let us know.
Yeah, for sure.
Thanks, Chris. And same to both you too, Ken. I appreciate it. And I just, this is how guys like us have made our living. I made my living doing this since I was a teenager. My entire adult life, I've supported myself doing this, and so, and I want to be a part of carrying that forward for everybody who's doing it now, guys who are just getting into it, and guys who are going to be getting into it 5 years from now. We got to keep this thing going and keep it interesting and keep it fresh. And I think Sons of Speed is going to be a big part of that. I certainly hope it is. I mean, we've proven it, 3 times now. So I'm ready to hit the 4th.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. Right on, Billy. Well, thanks for taking time today, and that's super exciting about the 45s. I'm sure we'll talk to you again before Bike Week, but congratulations on the success of Sons of Speed at Biketoberfest, and I'm sure we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks a lot, fellas. I appreciate it, and I do look forward to talking to you soon in the future.
Right on, man. Thanks a lot,
Thanks.
Billy.
All right, take care.
And this is like, here's what I'm talking about all the time with the metaphysical connection of stuff. There is such an energy. I think half the guys that show up at Billy's garage to make sure those motorcycles are running would come just for that part of it. I was so amazed when I walked in. It was, days away from race day, and just there's Broyles on one side, there was Wardlaw on the other, and his brother was working on a bike, and everybody Paul Cox came in, and he was putting a motorcycle together, and like so much good energy, but not because it was like a list of celebrities, not because they were working on these old treasures. It was just guys in the shop, and they were putting it all on the table to go after it, man. They had a day that they were going out with these bikes, and they didn't leave anything on the table.
No, for sure. I mean, it's such a great. I love watching people who just follow their passion, and that's really what Billy's doing with this, and what all these guys are doing with this. I mean, nobody's really making any money, nobody's getting rich off this. It's really about the passion and really kind of propelling the sport forward. And it's funny that something that old is what's propelling the sport, forward.
Right.
So it's really fun to see, and it's great to be a part of. I can't tell you, I can't reiterate how much I've said it, but being out there, there is nothing like it. Watching it is fine, but being out there, there is nothing like it. It is unbelievable.
Absolutely.
So, um, I've got to tell a quick story about first time I met Billy Lane was at I guess it was the Broken Spoke in Sturgis in 2000, maybe 2001. It was before he was super popular, but he had a lot of bikes in the horse, and even then, just such a genuine guy. I told him about some piece of shit that I was working on, and I was like, "Yeah, I'm making it," and he's like,
"It's gonna be
"Do
awesome."
it." Yeah, and he's like, "Do it, man. Like get it done." And I of course sold it before I got it done. But just the positivity and the fact that he was just approachable, and and he's that same guy now. So yeah, super, just a really good guy.
The cool thing about him always was that he had this thing inside of him, like he always wanted to be sharing knowledge with people. He like Billy would have been fantastic as a professor at an industrial design school, or one of these schools where you can learn to machine and work with your hands and fabricate and everything. But in everything that he did, like while he was on that super popular phase and everybody's seeing the bikes he's building, he's on television, he's everything else, he was already starting on this chapter of his life back end. He was learning how to, pour Babbitt bearings, and, he was starting to amass this collection of old motorcycles. This was very much a passion of his for decades,
Yeah, I mean, I think from the beginning, I think vintage motorcycles have been more his thing than anything else,
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, that's really been his passion.
Absolutely.
So let's see here. What
we can talk about.
Should we do a little more news and then call it?
Yeah, well, I think definitely some news. There's more.
We got a couple things
we can talk about.
Well, let's talk about Polaris real quick.
Okay.
So we talked about Harley's third quarter earnings last week.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about what that really means, what it looks like, the fact that you and I are not financial wizards and still looking at these results is really difficult. But Polaris put out their third quarter results, I think strategically after Harley's, and their headline is that they increased 25% over last year of organic growth. But it's a little bit of a misnomer, because if you look at the motorcycle segment, and I don't know where the huge numbers come from, where the primary, but it certainly doesn't come from the motorcycle segment. And I'm not here to be the guy that rains on the parade, but the motorcycle segment was down 14% year to year, and that included about $40 million or about $39 million worth of Victory motorcycle that just basically went away. But it was their gross profit was down 50%. It was down to $10 million compared to $20 million the year before. So, I mean, there's obviously some of Victory that's kind of that's spilling over on that. It sounds like their retail sales for Indians were actually doing pretty well, but and they're saying Slingshot has actually been declining as well, but it's hard to say really what's going on there because of the whole Victory deal and them kind of phasing that out. I think they're still kind of sucking that up. But I think we'll know pretty soon, because we'll find out, what kind of marketing dollars they're spending, and that'll be pretty indicative of kind of where they're at financially on the motorcycle side.
Yeah. That whole thing, like, that was going back and forth again with the whole quarterly report, this company, that company, Harley versus Indian. It's really going to be hard to tell because there's so many things in play right now. Like you just said about the whole victory going away. Like, how much of that is in transfer? Like, how much of the plus or minus that you're seeing from Indian's market share are you really seeing from victory just going away? Transfer of dealerships, riders, people that were victory customers years ago now becoming Indian. So I think there's a big gray area right now where it's going to be hard to gauge any of this, especially with as much of the market as a whole that's in flux. You know what I mean? So until some of that finds a new normal and a foundation to rest on, to where we can start saying, okay, this is the new normal for everything. Everything's settled, and from here, we can start gauging this one versus that one. But I'm not sure right now you really can. You can really get a good look at it.
Agreed. One thing that is worth saying is that, the Indian motorcycle, their retail sales increased 16%. And they say that was driven by mostly the introduction of the new Chieftain Elite and Limited models, and Roadmaster Classic models. And then they surpassed the 10% mark in September. So, after they announced those new models, and I think honestly, especially the Elite and the Limited, those are the ones that don't have the full skirted fenders. I think that there's a really specific buyer for those full skirted fender bikes. And I think when you start, cutting them down and making them look more Harley-ish, regardless of whether you want to say it or not, but looking less like an Indian, with that kind of iconic look, but looking more like a kind of a big V-twin American cruiser, the more people you're going to appeal to. And so I think that was a really smart move on Indian's side. I think, still having that kind of classic look, it's still got, a little bit of a, ducktail to that front fender, makes sense. And I think it's a way of getting more riders in. If that's what we're trying to do, they're going to have to keep doing that, and then also come up with smaller machines. They're going to have to come up with smaller displacement machines.
Well, this was it's funny that you say that too, because I took a ration of shit from a buddy the other day for this conversation, because he was talking about, Harley's position on the world market. And I said, well, Harley is really not going to have a position on the world market until they do a radically different motorcycle. You know what I mean? And he kind of challenged me on it. And I said, look, man, almost nowhere else in the world does Harley Davidson have the opportunity to sell a motorcycle based on, the company's heritage and that sense of freedom and, the whole thing that goes on in the United States. I said, in other parts of the world, it's very much about a utilitarian concern. They're looking for motorcycles that are A to B machines, and it's a different thing entirely. So
sure.
This although I believe that the lightweight motorcycles like the Street are moving in that direction, when you compare the Street against some of the other manufacturers' motorcycles in that class, I still think Harley has a long way to go before they're given, on a world level, don't get me wrong about this, but on a world level, the dollar for dollar comparison to some of the other motorcycles you might be able to get from other manufacturers. So those are going to be the challenges for Harley in the world,
Well, and I think even more so, like when you look at total unit sales, that's really the big thing, because, a lot of these motorcycles just, they don't cost, whatever, $20,000, $30,000. But, so just in August, I was just looking at this, in August, Royal Enfield sold almost 70,000 motorcycles.
No kidding. In August.
And that's an increase of 22% compared to August 2016.
That's what I was going to say, dude. What, are they giving something away?
You know, so I mean, and you know, it's a Royal Enfield. You know, it's not. Um, you know, but the other thing is
But
that,
it's
you
not
know,
what? Wait,
of
what were
that,
you gonna
the
say?
export,
What were
right?
you gonna say? It's not what?
Well, they're not for us. You know, the exports on that were 1,000 units.
Yeah.
You know, of that 670, you know, almost 70,000 units, 1,000 of them were exported. So, I mean, that's kind of, you know, if you look at it that way, Royal Enfield is really the Harley of India, you
Right.
know, and that's, you know, that's really where the street, you know, 500 and the street 750 are. I mean, that is where they're not meant for us particularly, right?
Oh no
they're
no, and
meant
that's
for they're meant for a market like India, where somebody doesn't want to ride a Royal Enfield. They want something a little bit cooler, right?
but see no, this is kind of the parallel that goes on there because yeah, the motorcycle is not for us. The motorcycles that are that are being sold on the world market, like while it still has to be a Harley Davidson, I think a lot of the traditional choices maybe of styling and ties to heritage, those have to go away before they're really going to be able to aggressively go after these new goals that they've set as far as sales on the world market. I agree with
Sure.
you that it has to be a Harley Davidson product, but I think that it's going to have to be a radically different Harley Davidson product where you would see a lot in the past. You would see Harley Davidson find that middle of the road that they can
Hmm.
put match innovation with heritage and consideration to the
Sure.
past. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think they're going to have to
Street rod.
they're not going to have to worry so much about that middle of the road anymore and really pick the left lane or the right lane and go hardcore
Sure.
after it. And it's I said that in my analysis of the Softails. In the magazine this issue, I said that these are not your father's Softail, and Harley Davidson, quite frankly, there's some bikes that they made for this model year. They don't care if we like them or not. Our generation, they don't care if the baby boomers like them. They're looking for new riders. So
Yeah.
some of those bikes have been designed to go after a demographic that doesn't yet exist in Harley Davidson's consumer purview. You know what I mean?
Sure. Yeah, no, that makes sense. I mean, when you look at the total, you know, and I hate to keep coming back to Royal Enfield, but, you know, 3.1 million units thus far this year.
Yeah,
3.1 million units,
that's
okay?
crazy.
But, you know, a large portion of those were 350 cc's and below, and then 350 cc's and above, or up to 500 cc's, because that's all they're allowed to have, is a very small portion of that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, like you said, it would have to be a complete reimagining of the brand, you know, and really taking something. And we're not talking about a V Rod, you know, we're not talking about, you know, we're talking about something totally different.
No, and I mean honestly, for my opinion, and I mean I'm not such a worldly man that I could give Harley Davidson advice, but I really
No,
don't know that the street is that motorcycle. You know what I mean? And I'm just
well, it's
going
just
based on looking at that bike against other, you know, worldwide distributed motorcycle products. When I look at it in that context, I don't really know that that's the bike. I don't
yeah,
know.
agreed. Um, Moving on, what do we got here? For Harley Davidson, have you ever been there?
No.
I haven't either. Paducah, Kentucky. I guess they just got a new owner, um, which sounds great. It sounds like a couple guys that already had some dealerships, just bought Four Rivers, and sounds like they're going to kind of keep it committed to, you know, customers, employees, and the Harley Davidson franchise. So I think that's worth mentioning. You know, when something like that comes across my screen, I always think about how difficult it must be to own a dealership these days,
Mm.
and really the only way to do it would be to have numerous, you know, dealerships where you can have, you know, a little bit of buying leverage, etc. So, you know, my hats are off to them, but it seems like such a difficult time to own a dealership.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you're seeing, I mean, quite frankly, with that, because of the difficulties that exist, you're seeing dealerships that have been, 2, 3, 4 generations in the same family. You're starting to see them change hands, and they're going to people that own these, multi-line dealerships can leverage that buying power to make them work, you know.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah,
just
it's difficult.
it's a sad sign of our times, man.
Yeah. It's definitely a change for sure.
So Thunder Beach, what's up?
Oh yeah, I totally forgot about that completely. Just 100% just completely came off my, because it doesn't seem like Panama City is even really a part of Florida. It actually seems like a totally different nation there.
Right.
And I've never been there. I've only seen pictures and heard, you know, the reports. But it seems like a very interesting place.
Oh yeah, yeah. And I mean the people that run it, man, they're top shelf, and you know it's for so long. Like this is one of Roadside's favorite events. Like he goes down and covers it for us for the magazine all the time. But it's been, you know, advertised in the undercurrent as the anti-rally, you know, Florida rally, and like the other thing to do. Like it's just a really really good time. Bunch of good people that know how to party.
Yeah. Yep. That's kind of what I've heard. All right, I think the last thing is just Shoeburth. So the only reason that I want to talk about this is so Shoeburth North America just appointed a new, why can't I find this? A new president, and I think, and it's a woman, and I think that that's really a sign of the times, and I think it's great to see a lot more women. You know, I know that Sarah Schilke's the head of North American marketing for BMW, and there's a lot more of that happening out there, and I think that's a really great sign of the times, because I feel like even though it is a smaller percentage of the motorcycling population, I think that those types of things are going to really start to take into account, because you and I trying to figure out, okay, what is it that that women riders are looking for is ridiculous, because we're not them, you know?
Yeah.
And so I think to have women in, you know, positions that can really make some decisions, like a company like Shoeburth, you know, and I know they're kind of a smaller helmet company in terms of the motorcycle industry, but I'm a huge proponent of them because of the integration of their Bluetooth technology into their helmets. I know I just can't stop talking about it.
No. But dude, you wait 1 second. What was the name of the movie that what's his name was in? That he had to he worked for a marketing firm, and he had to come up with a whole line on marketing campaigns for products that were from a woman's perspective.
I don't remember.
Huh?
I don't know.
Oh my God! It was so funny. It was
funny.
I
can only imagine.
Huh?
But
I think about
you know,
this. I think about this table full of marketing executives, like old guys with cigars, talking about, you know, what women want, and that's
exactly, yeah,
that's
precisely. And I think trying to find, you know, there are enough women riders out there that are as varied as men riders. I think it would be so just crazy to think like, oh, there's a woman rider out there. You know, I mean, their tastes are as varied as, you know, we've got the Deb Holmes of the world, you know, who want to ride a 14-foot chopper with a Sugar Bear front end, you know, and the, you know, Betsy Hulskamps who are cruising around on a BMW R9T right now, you know. So I think to think that there's, you know, kind of one woman rider is kind of silly, but I think it's great to have, you know, a woman in a position that can make some real decisions. And so congratulations to her. Of course, I can't find her name at this point, but it's good stuff.
Yes, sir.
What do you have going on? I've heard there's something maybe going on in the next couple of weekends or something, maybe down in like Texas.
It is, but 2 seconds. I got to answer for my own question. I have to put this up. It was.
You had to go look for
it. I did, man, because that's the day we live in. It was Mel Gibson and Helen Hunt, and the movie was actually called What Women Want.
Oh, geez. Yeah, I never watched that movie. I can guarantee you that, for sure.
It was so funny. It was so funny. at one point someone walks in on him and he has like all this female products on him, you know, like he's doing a mud mask, he's got a fancy robe on, he's done his toes, and like it's too much.
I think your idea of funny and my idea of funny are two different things.
I mean funny, Ken. It was funny. It was funny.
Yeah, okay.
So yeah, coming up here real soon to the Galveston area. We're proud to see that the Lone Star Rally is playing host to a new idea that we had this year called In Motion, and man, I couldn't be prouder because 14 builders, some of the best builders across the country, and the energy on the street about it is just crazy. The builders are fired up, and you know, we're, like you said, we're a week away from the first ever In Motion show. And Lone Star in general, man. Lone Star is off the hook. Like 400,000 people hit the streets of Galveston, Texas.
You just let the number, Chris.
What's
You're
that?
not supposed to tell people that there's that many people down there.
Why?
Huh?
Why?
No, I mean, it's like the hidden gem. Most people don't know that there's that many people that go there. They don't realize that it's huge. It's way bigger than Laconia. I mean, there's so many people that go down to that rally. I'm just kidding, by the way. But I mean,
totally
literally,
madness.
you know, there's so many people that just don't even know how big that rally is.
Well, what's nice too, man, is it's you know, on the Strand, which is their main street. It's total craziness. It's everything you would imagine. You know, there's 2 and 3 rows of motorcycles parked on each side of the street, and then, you know, 4 rows of traffic coming down the middle of motorcycle traffic. And this is for like a 14 block area. You know what I mean? And like just crazy stuff going on over there. But on the other side of the island, on what they call the seawall, it's a little more laid back. There's vendors. It's where Pierwoods does his paint show. It's where we do our bike games and our, you know, our custom bike show. A lot of stuff happens over there. It's a little less, you know, rally-esque. And you get the best of both worlds that way, you know.
Yeah.
So obviously Fridays, Mr. Pierwoods' paint show will all be on hand for that. We got our bike games.
Is it this Friday?
No, next Friday.
Okay, so not tomorrow, but a week from tomorrow.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
But yeah, good time.
And then, so next Thursday is going to be super easy. You and I are just going to like get on. It's going to be like, hey, we're here. You're going to have some guests there. It's going to be like some epic guest on Thursday.
I'm going to have it all figured out by then. You know, this on the road version of what we do. I know one thing now is that I can't have the air conditioning run in the studio at the same time that I have 5 computer screens, because apparently it's too much, Ken. It's too much.
No. You know what would make sense is if I was doing all that stuff from my base while you were running around. That's crazy, right?
I know.
Anyway.
You would think at one point I would try to get ahead of the curve on some stuff, and
you're a stud, Chris. Everybody should tell Chris what a stud he is and how much he's loved today. He was a little down on himself earlier today.
So listen, I am so bummed out, and I have to apologize that we haven't had the time really for Facebook to get your comments from Facebook today. We'll get back to that next week. I promise next week we're going to leave some extra time to have actual ticker tape thing going on up here that's going to show you what number you can call in, and we'll take some calls, because it's been too much of us shooting our mouths off lately and not letting you guys talk. So that's what's coming up.
Yeah, one thing that I do want to mention, and we're just going to go behind the veil for a minute here, is that the December issue just came out, right? This month, and that is that's the 11th anniversary, Chris, of when you put me in the magazine.
No kidding.
See, look at that.
Look at that.
See?
Dude, I loved that motorcycle too. God.
Yeah, it was fun to ride, for sure. Anyway, I wanted to do that little plug for your, like, how we met and such. So yeah, 11 years ago, man.
That's so
crazy,
sweet.
right? What's that?
I said that's so sweet. It's our anniversary.
Yeah, isn't it though? So,
right on,
anyway.
man. Well, I guess that's it for this week, man. I apologize again for the snafu in the middle.
Yeah, well, It happens. Great show today. If you didn't get to see everything, it's all up on either this episode or the one before, so you can see it all there. And once again, you can go see everything that Paul's doing. You can go follow him on Facebook, Instagram, etc. at Bagger Nation. If you just look up that Bagger Nation, and you can go to his website baggernation.com, get all the information about SRT kits, etc. that he was talking about. See the Bikers For Boobies bike, all that stuff. And then Billy Lane, Choppers Inc. You can find him on Facebook and everywhere and see everything that there is to see about Sons of Speed. So.
Do yourself a favor, make plans to see this thing in Daytona, because with them opening up this class to include 45s, it's going to be off the hook, man. Like, I can't imagine how many people are going to be there to race in Daytona. Cannot even imagine. Yeah,
it's going to be ridiculous. It's going to be so much fun, and I can't wait to be down there. It's going to be awesome.
Right on. Well,
all right.
With a weekly offering of 60 minutes worth of all the bullshit we can fit, I guess this is it for another week. I'm Chris.
And I'm Ken.
And this was the Weekly Report.
Thanks for watching.